We're live in 3, 2...
Welcome into LeatherBrainz, your host here, Slapdog, and we have another episode for you talking about NFL football. In today's episode, we're going to be covering Aaron Rodgers discussion. In Who Cares news, some Cam Akers talk. We're also going to discuss Brandon Aiyuk again, a little bit of Raiders conversation, and then we'll wrap it out with some TO here at the very end. Now, I can't do this alone. I have my boy Scotty Del Rey and Alan Casanova Castro here today with me. Gentlemen, it's good to see you. Alan, it's been a while since we've seen you. How you been, man? Your room's looking rather empty back there.
Yeah, in the middle of moving, so if anybody's watching this, apologies. I look like I'm in some meth house recording. I am not. I am moving, and so that is why it looks empty and why I'm selling all my things for drugs.
You're telling me you've never done meth in that house?
Not recently. No.
Thing of the past for you?
Yeah. It was about a month. Clean for about a month, so we're good.
Congratulations on being clean and purchasing a new home.
Thank you.
Before we get into everything that I just mentioned, I have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Erica's Healthy Pets. It is the only place that any animal lover should go get not only just treats for their loving dogs, but they also have oils and tinctures and all these other medicinal items for their dog as well. I'm a huge fan of these, and I don't eat them. My dogs do, and they absolutely love them. Go check them out. Erica's Healthy Pets, LB20. Use the code LB20 at checkout, and you will get 20% off your order. Scotty, your dogs love these too, right?
Yeah, and my dogs eat anything. What I love about them is that they're healthy for the dogs, they're affordable, and the dogs do eat them, which, again, that's a pretty low bar. But they do like them. They've got all sorts of different treats. Their favorite is, hold on, I've got it sitting here. This guy. So this is beef sprinkles. Beef sprinkles are solid because when your dogs are not feeling too good, sometimes they don't eat, and you got to keep them on that schedule. Otherwise, they poop at weird times and they wake you up in the middle of the night. It's annoying. So these things, no matter how not hungry they are, you sprinkle a little bit of this on their food, and they can't resist it. So that's just one of the many things that I've got from Erica's Healthy Pet using code LB20 to get 20% off. Save yourself some money. Make your dogs happy.
I'm not going to lie. The sweet potato chips on the site, I would probably dabble just out of curiosity.
Like personally? Like you'd eat them?
Yeah. Like I would eat them. I'm trying to, every time I look at dog food, I'm like, which one of these could I probably eat? And those actually look pretty good.
That's what you think every time you look at dog food?
Yeah, because my dog's eating it. So we got some stuff upstairs. I'm like, I don't know if I could eat it, but this stuff on Erica's Healthy Pet, I would.
I haven't tried those yet, and that
personally,
that's actually pretty well. Not
for your dog.
I'd probably try one just to show my dog that I'm not a bitch.
You want me to try one right now?
Yes,
you should try one.
Yeah, I absolutely want you to try this.
The beef liver chews would probably be a hard pass, but the sweet potato chips or the cheesy bites, I might be.
Check that out. Scotty is
all right.
This
Scotty,
is good podcasting. Scotty has ate beef sprinkle.
He's eating beef. What did that taste like?
Yeah, give us a play-by-play. Like
if you were to go to a 5-star restaurant and order a filet mignon, it's basically the same thing, and you get this for like $2. I don't know how much.
I don't know why I feel like you're lying, but
yeah, no, it tastes like dog food, but dogs like it. Okay. It doesn't taste good for me. It's still in my mouth. I can't swallow it, so it'll just be there for the whole episode.
All right, I'm gonna make sure that you don't get rid of that out of your mouth.
Okay. Just tuck it behind your Zyn pouch, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I do have a Zyn pouch in. Okay.
We are not even 5 minutes in, and this is so off the rails. Go check out Erica's Healthy Pets, LB20 at checkout. I also got to give a shout out to one of our new writers. He wrote an article talking about Bo Nix in Denver. So go check it out, LeatherBrainz.com. And I'm very, very excited to announce that we have a whole crew of writers that are about to join the LeatherBrainz team. I'm excited for all of them to join us. And hopefully starting as early as next week, we will have a bunch of content and good articles and blogs /writes over on LeatherBrainz.com. So we'll be advertising. Keep your eyes out, but go check out the Bo Nix article. Let's go talk about Brandon Aiyuk. We'll start with him because it seems like this entire offseason has just been very focused on Brandon Aiyuk. That has been in my opinion, the mantra. Brandon Aiyuk is like the new Aaron Rodgers of this offseason. He has officially requested a trade from the 49ers, and we have talked ad nauseum about Aiyuk's situation. There are a couple teams that are kind of in need of a wide receiver, being the Commanders, Patriots, Steelers, and Giants were the four that really came to mind for me. The Commanders, you could even maybe argue they don't need one, but the Patriots, Steelers, and Giants are certainly in need of a wide receiver. I mean, I don't like Brandon Aiyuk's not going anywhere, in my opinion.
No.
I'm really confused. What, like, I get because he's on a high profile team, but like he's a good wide receiver. Don't get me wrong, but he is getting way too much run this offseason versus like what he should be for the level of players. He's a really good wide receiver, but I don't think he's like top
$30 million a year.
I don't know. It's just a weird, I think it's just because it's the 49ers and we really haven't had a lot other than the Chiefs getting arrested to talk about. So this is what we're talking about.
It's a headline.
I don't think there's any way he goes anywhere. If you're the 49ers, you know, you've come so close so many years in a row. Like right now is just when you try and hold it together if it's the last thing you do to try and make a run before you have to start moving pieces around. I think this is probably Aiyuk's last year with the 49ers, I'm guessing, but I don't think he's going anywhere this season. I think this is all for nothing.
I tend to agree. Our good friend Adam Schefter had even said something along those lines. Why would a Super Bowl competing team get rid of their wide receiver? Be it Aiyuk or Debo. Why? Like there's absolutely no reason to do it. Now, if you were in the slums, if you were like the Panthers and you're like, okay, we got a lot of work to do everywhere else. Let's trade a Christian McCaffrey. And I'm not saying Aiyuk is the same level, but like a high caliber player and get some assets to try and improve our team. That makes sense. But that Brandon Aiyuk isn't going anywhere. And the issue now is training camp has started. And so every day that Aiyuk decides that he's going to sit out, he is going to get fined for that. And as we have talked about previously, that is going to be a huge detriment to him because there are other mouths to feed in this offense. And Aiyuk's stock, I think, will only go down if he chooses to sit out. So you might as well go out there and play.
I think so too. Well, what related to this is Devontae Adams, because there's been lots of it seems like Devontae Adams hasn't said anything about this, and the Raiders haven't said anything about this, but everybody else is like, yeah Devontae Adams wants to leave for sure. He fucking hates it there. But realistically, Devontae Adams, aging wide receiver, obviously still one of the best wide receivers in the league. What happens if this Raiders quarterback situation doesn't work out? They lose a bunch of games. Like, is Devontae Adams by like week 5 going to be like, get me the fuck out of here? Or is the Antonio Pierce aura enough to keep him happy?
I mean, he said that when he was playing with Jimmy G. He's like, I got to get the fuck out of here. So, I mean, I've said this before, and my train of thought on this has not changed. I do think that Devontae Adams will get traded mid-season. I just don't think there's any way that it won't because the Raiders aren't going to be competitive. I mean, they're not. They don't have a quarterback. They have Gardner Minshew, who I think Gardner Minshew will, by the end of the season, be the starting quarterback for the Raiders. I think that's just a given. Raiders are going to be okay, but at the end of the day, you have to go through the Chiefs, and I don't see that happening. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, the Raiders are going to realize that and say, hey, look, we have an aging asset on our team. We're not going to, like we might maybe sneak in a wild card play here. Maybe. And in the event that they don't, I think they move on.
It's two things for the Raiders. I'll start on the Raiders and I'll go back to the 49ers situation for a second. But for the Raiders, the way I see it playing out, if you had me like draw up how the season's going to work, is Aiden O'Connell will start. They're going to sputter like they did last year with him, realize it's not working. You're going to have Adams is going to get pissed. They're going to pivot to Minshew to try to like salvage some sort of offense to try to score and put up points and keep Adams happy. He's going to look good for a couple weeks and then it's going to fizzle and then they're going to trade him. And then that's how it's going to go because the quarterback situation is the hardest to get right. And they have two people that are very obviously not starters in the NFL. One of them's fun and can chuck it around in Minshew, but he's not a long-term solution. And they have some serious holes in that offense right now. Going back to the 49ers situation, Ricky Pearsall landed on the unable to perform or physically unable to perform list last week. Yeah. So they're definitely not getting rid of Aiyuk now. They can't because now they have rookies that are falling, and just for the health of the roster, they're going to keep them. So it'll be interesting to see how the mid-season, how things go. I think if the 49ers somehow shit the bed, I think they'll be quicker to get rid of Aiyuk, but I don't see that happening with that roster. So I think Adams goes mid-season, like you said, and then they're just going to hold on to Aiyuk and tell him to shut up and play.
Yeah, I just don't see any other way that happens. And Devontae Adams will probably go to a contender. Like it would be so fun if he went to the 49ers, and I don't think that's actually would happen either. But I think that it's almost inevitable. We're talking about the Raiders a little bit. Vegas head coach Antonio Pierce decided he wanted the team to have their training camp outside of Las Vegas, and they have chosen to travel to Southern California. Did you guys hear about this at all?
Yeah, This was fucking hilarious because they asked Mark Davis about it. And they're like, yeah, because the NFL has a rule that if you have your training camp outside of like your geographical area, you're not allowed to promote it. So you're not allowed to make it a big thing with fans and media and all this stuff. And they asked Mark Davis about it, and he just goes, his exact quote was, yeah, it'd be nice if all the fans could be there, but whatever. That's just what he said. It's just like, okay. But I thought this was especially funny because
quote I have ever heard.
Yeah, I know. It's wonderful. But he also, I think I was listening to an interview with somebody. It might have been on PMT or McAfee or something. But, it was Derek Carr. Listening to an interview with Derek Carr. And Derek Carr just kind of like under his breath, just like mentioned that Mark Davis flies somebody out to Las Vegas to get his bowl cut. Like he's got like a hairdresser. Like we all look at his hair and we're like, oh, that guy's just so rich he doesn't care. No, he cares a lot. He flies somebody out, according to Derek Carr, to give him that haircut.
There
every,
is
2 weeks. Or
absolutely no way I could not give him that haircut with a mixing bowl in the kitchen and a pair of scissors. There's absolutely no way.
What does he order? Like, what does he say?
Come give Mark me Davis. Somebody shows
give me
up.
the do.
Give me the Mark Davis.
Give me the do. Give me the
I
Mark
don't know.
Davis.
I wonder.
There's no way.
You think he has like applications for that job for him just to fly out to Vegas like twice a month to?
That's what I'm saying.
Because
like, what the hell is this?
I would.
Like, does he have hair plugs?
I
honestly am curious. I bet he has hair plugs. And that's why he flies someone out.
Hold on, I'm a hair plug whisperer. Let me see. I'm gonna look up.
It has to be something for money laundering. He has to be paying him like $5 million to like hold on to for him.
Cut my hair.
Yeah, come cut my bowl cut for $5 million.
I just think I think the Raiders have been so sad for so long, just as a franchise, that he's like, I'm just gonna make everybody a little bit happier. Well, I'm just going to give myself the dumbest fucking haircut. So when I walk into the room, people just can't help but smile.
They can laugh at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just lightens the mood
I can excuse all my bad decisions as an owner because look at my haircut. Obviously, I don't make very good decisions. You should have all known better. That's
on you
like
guys,
an A+.
not me.
That's an A+ play. Like,
3D
look
chess.
how dumb I am. You should have known this was coming. The only good thing the Raiders have done this past week that I saw was obviously the season tickets are going out for all of the teams. And I don't know if you saw the Raiders box that they sent out.
Yeah.
That was sweet. It looked like a treasure chest, and it had like a treasure map, and it was playing music, and it had like all this commentary of like almost those old NFL games talking about the Raiders season. I was like, that's actually kind of sweet.
Did it played the music when you opened the treasure box, like a green card from Hallmark?
Yeah, so you opened it and it's all lit up and it's sweet.
It did look cool, but it really made me sad because I was like, there's no treasure. Like, you're not going anywhere. Like, at the end of the day, it is. Like, I was like, this is just sad because it is a sweet box. And I'm like, you're just a bad team. So I saw there's no treasure in the bottom of this thing.
There's Bills fans, of course, they kill me. They're fucking hilarious. But somebody commented, like, I just got mine in like a red envelope. That was it. And I was like, damn, that sucks. That would blow.
But you know what? If you are in Vegas and you're a season ticket holder, I imagine those are substantially more expensive than a Bills season ticket holder. So
that's got to be insane.
Yeah,
insane.
Aaron Rodgers. Let's pivot this over to him. We're talking about Brandon Aiyuk and how it was a little bit of his off season, but Aaron Rodgers is back in the limelight just a little bit. We haven't heard a lot of him as of late, but Aaron Rodgers does not know if this will be his last season or not. On Pardon My Take, Rodgers, who is now 40 years old, discussed his future in the NFL and said that he wanted to do 2 good ones and then retire a Jet, meaning win 2 Super Bowls and then retire. We obviously all know what happened 4 plays into last season, but this very well could be the end of Rodgers' career after this season. Thoughts? Is this the end of Aaron Rodgers?
I think if they have if he stays healthy and they have a lot of success, I don't see him hanging it. I mean, maybe if they win a Super Bowl, he might be like, all right, that was a good one to end on. But I think if they're a good playoff team, I think he'll stick it out.
Let's just do this. No justification. Over under 1 season remaining for Rodgers. Over under.
I'm gonna say over.
I'll take the under. I think this is his last run. I really do.
Yeah, we'll say 1.5 there. So the hook 1.5. So you get the under, you get the hook. So yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be it for him. I think whether it's like him just being fed up with it or his body wearing down or they actually do win the Super Bowl, I think the outside one is that he actually is the Democratic vice president and then he has to actually leave the NFL.
Well,
I was going to say there's
an
another
opening.
4 years till the next election. So he's got 4 more years probably before he wants to hang him up.
I do think this is the end. I really, which actually, we've all have our thoughts and opinions on Aaron Rodgers, but NFL without Aaron Rodgers makes me sad. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've watched Aaron Rodgers for the last 20-ish years now, and I just can't. And you could say the same thing about like the Tom Brady's and the Drew Breeses, but it's like Aaron Rodgers to me feels like the end of that era completely. And it's like he's one of the last ones, and now with him potentially being done, I don't know, just kind of makes me a little sad because I think he is good for NFL. He is good for the sport of football, and that would make me sad. But I'm gonna be happy. We're gonna see what happens this year. I'm not supporting the Jets, but I am fantasy wise rooting for him. So
yeah,
we'll see. And who cares? Fantasy news. Did you guys hear about Cam Akers?
What? Yeah. Tell me. This is exciting news.
Yeah, hold on. Just buckle up, boys. If you don't even know who Cam Akers is, I'm about to tell you. Cam Akers is one of the best running backs in the sport of NFL football, and he has just signed with the Texans. Last season, he was traded.
Is he going to be first string?
Now, let me get to it, Scotty. You're jumping the fence. Give me a second. He was traded to the Vikings via the Rams last season, and Akers never really got going because he tore his Achilles in week 9 of last season. And I also need to mention that he tore his other Achilles the year before. So, Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers, this looks absolutely 100% like nothing more than a depth piece addition for the Texans. Congratulations, Cam Akers.
I just hope, maybe he can get a ring out of this group. He doesn't even have to play a snap. Just get a ring.
I mean, honestly, for him, that's probably the best thing you can chew for, right? And the Texans the Texans are frisky. They're kind of fun, but I don't see him touching the field.
If the Texans were in the NFC, I think they'd be up there to be like, okay, they're in the top 3 for the mix. I think just being in the AFC right now just blows because you never know. Bengals, Bills, Chiefs, Jets, whoever can just pop off and do what they need to do. It makes it extremely difficult right now. But I agree. I think it's just a depth piece. I think from a fantasy perspective, I mean, it's going to be the thing we've been having to do the last 3 years where it's like, I don't really have a bell cow. I'm just going to have to roll the dice and see what matchup I like and listen to our Wednesday episode and figure out who the hell I'm going to start.
Exactly.
That's what I'm going to do all year. I'll let you know how it goes.
Scotty's going to be like 1-8, 1-9. We were talking about Aaron Rodgers. I want to go over to his alma mater, the Packers. I want to talk about what's going on over there because this is something that I think is kind of interesting. So this weekend, it was announced that the Packers defensive lineman Kenny Clark agreed to a 3-year, $64 million extension, which then kind of stirred the pot a little bit over on the Twitterverse about where's Jordan Love's extension? When is that coming? What's going on? And then it was announced yesterday that the former first-round pick is he's sitting out, and he's excuse me, I'm struggling here. Love is sitting out, thank you. He's got a really interesting situation because he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years, which kind of really robbed the Packers of playing Love on a full rookie deal, which we've kind of talked about in the past as far as like these rookie deals are kind of really, if you hit on a quarterback on a rookie deal, we're seeing teams just do everything they can to try and support that before they have to pay the quarterback. And Brock Purdy, I think, is a wonderful example of this. So he really didn't get to play on his rookie deal. He's now playing on his 5th-year option, and he finally got the starting role last season. So he really only has 1 full year starting under his belt and is now sitting on a 5th-year option, and he's decided to sit out until a new contract is in place because he doesn't want to get hurt, right? So also say we haven't seen a ton of Jordan Love, but what we saw on the tail end of last season actually showcased that he's the next generation for this Packers quarterback room. And, we've seen Trevor Lawrence get paid this offseason. We've seen Jared Goff get paid this offseason. And we've also seen more of their play. So it begs the question, what is Jordan Love going to get? And is it going to, break any records here? Is it going to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks? Because it seems like it's one after the next, and then the next quarterback gets paid the highest contract here, and the cap space is going up, and we know that it's not real and the cap's a myth. But all's to say, what happens with Jordan Love here? Does he deserve a high-end number one highest paid quarterback extension after only 1 year of play?
Yeah, I think if you look at his stats, we go back, we just were talking about the Texans and how Stroud is getting a lot of his flowers, deservedly so. But from a statistical standpoint, Love 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, won a playoff game, largely very successful without, like, I would say, household wide receiver names. And I think for a quarterback like that for your first year, he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid whatever the market's bearing right now for a quarterback. I think it makes sense. I think from everything I've read, the Packers have every intent to pay him and get it done. I think they're just ironing out some things, and he's in the building. Like, he's in the facility. He's doing the things he needs to do. He's just not practicing until he gets those guarantees. And so I think that makes sense. I don't think he'd be in the building. I don't think the Packers would let him in the building unless there's some we're going to get this done type nods happening. So I think you have to. He's shown enough through one season to get it done in being able to lead this Packers team. Can he back it up? Who knows? You don't know. Now that there's film on him, we've also talked about that, how young quarterbacks, tend to struggle when there's enough film on them. Like, how do I continue to evolve and adjust and make sure that I'm not, tipping my hand before plays and doing that kind of stuff. So that'll be the key, but he's going to get paid. He's going to absolutely get paid, and it's going to be one of the top paid quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, even if the Packers were stupid enough to really consider not doing it, Jordan Love's going to get paid anyway, because how many teams will pay him?
Sure.
So they don't have a choice. I mean, they're either they don't have a choice. Their only option is to pay Jordan Love whatever the market demands, because that's the situation that they're in, and there is no decision to be made.
I'm not going to argue that he's not going to get paid, because he will. But now it begs the question, what is he going to get paid? I agree with you, Alan. I think that at the end of the day, like, they wouldn't let him in the building and let him into meetings and do all this stuff if they weren't trying to actively get that figured out. It's probably just crossing the T's and dotting the I's and making sure that from a financial perspective and all that guarantee and everything that they need to get accomplished on Jordan Love's side of the fence will get accomplished. But you look at, like, Trevor Lawrence. Like, we have seen Trevor Lawrence over the last 5 years now, or 4 years now. And we have plenty of film on him. We know what Trevor Lawrence is as a product. And while I think he needs a haircut, he's still a good quarterback, and he got paid $55 million this offseason. Yeah. From an organizational perspective, like, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow when you have a guy who's only played for a season and he's saying, I want $58 million a year. And it's like, man, you're good. You're our guy. But that's a tough pill to swallow when you really haven't gotten to see the ins and outs and have more experience with him as a starting quarterback. You know what I mean? So that, to me, is where I'm really curious. What's the number going to be? Is he deserving of more than $55 million a year? Because I lean towards no.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think if you look at Goff, at 53, you have Herbert at 52, Lamar Jackson at 52. I think he's going to fall in somewhere around there. And I think that makes sense. And good for Trevor Lawrence, because, Joe Burrow's also sitting there at 55. So it's like, are you going to pay him Joe Burrow money?
Exactly.
Are you going to pay him more than Joe Burrow money? I don't know. That's going to be really interesting. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be that $54 million, just under the top. But still, he's going to be a top 5 or 6 paid quarterback.
I would agree with that. 53 is kind of what look. We could all be NFL GMs. This isn't really that hard. I would say $53 million is kind of where I see $53 million a year on a 5-year extension, 4-year contract, 4-year, maybe 4.
It's got to be 5. I bet
think?
you they go 5.
You think?
What year did Joe Burrow get drafted?
2020?
2019?
2020?
He has played a total of 52 games in the NFL. Over however many years it's been. I think you can pay him Joe Burrow money. I really do. I think you could pay him Joe Burrow money, because Joe Burrow is getting this ridiculous contract. Obviously, we know what his ceiling is, but he's never on the field. And if you're Jordan Love, you're like, yeah, we've only done it for a season. The second half of last season was awesome, but guess what? I'm here. I'm available. And our team is obviously very capable of making a playoff run. I deserve to get paid. And I think they're going to pay him. I think he's going to be right up there with the top end of those numbers.
It's going to be interesting. And I think I think it'll be done before the end of the week.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I don't think there's any reason for it not to be. So like I said, I think they're just trying to get dotting the T's or dotting the I's and crossing the T's and getting that thing finished.
The question you have to ask if you're waffling on what do you pay, and I think Green Bay fans are all in, and I'm pretty sure that front office is all in on him based on what they've seen. But like, what's his ceiling? Like success wise, career success wise, getting to a Super Bowl?
I'm gonna say this. It's Aaron Rodgers. That's the ceiling.
Oh,
That's the
So
ceiling.
him winning, he gets to win. He's going to win one. You think at some point with Green Bay? That's
I
like
think-
his ceiling.
No, I don't even think that. I don't know. There's so many things. That's a really
'Cause
tough
that's-
question. It genuinely
That's
is.
basically
Because you look at
when
like
you're looking.
Trevor Lawrence,
Yeah.
and I keep bringing him up just because we were talking about the money, and I think they're kind of in a similar wheelhouse in some ways. I think Jordan Love's a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. I think the Jaguars screwed up when they paid him top dollar money, but I also think once again they didn't have a choice.
Mhm.
So I think Super Bowl's within the that's a certain possibility,
too.
and there's a couple things that play into that for me. Is first and foremost, Jordan Love is a talented quarterback, but I also have a lot of respect for Matt LaFleur, and I think he also plays a good part in that. And I think that you have seen him find success over and over again with roster wise. The Packers aren't a stacked roster. They have good players. They have young, talented, good players. But like, you can't sit there and tell me that the Packers roster is better than even the Bears roster.
That's the thing, though, is that the Packers roster is so young that we don't know what the ceiling is for any of those players. Like, they're all new. So this could be a phenomenal offense over the next several years. And the thing is, Yeti said it last week, if you're a playoff team, you have the potential to win a Super Bowl. Anything can happen in the playoffs. You only have to win a handful of games. Anything can happen. And this is a playoff team. Like, this roster is a playoff team. So Jordan Love, very well, his ceiling could be multiple Super Bowls. As long as they're playoff eligible over the next handful of years, hell yeah. Like, it could be multiple Super Bowls.
So here's where you got to get, because the further you get away from the previous season, the further you stop remembering like you know what exactly happened.
Yeah.
They lost to the 49ers in California by a field goal. They were close.
They were.
And then they would have been rolling into play the Lions, which they could have beaten them too. So you're absolutely right. Like they're right there. It's just obviously the rosters flip over, but I agree with you. I think they were damn close last year. They were a damn good team last year. They beat the Chiefs late in the season. They went into Dallas. They almost beat the 49ers. Like, that was a damn good team.
Yeah.
So I agree.
They're young.
I think
they're not going to have the
that team's
roster
even better
turnover
this year.
Yeah, they're not going to have the roster turnover that a lot of teams have to deal with or have to make a bunch of moves to try and avoid, like the 49ers are in right now. Everyone's like, oh God, what's going to happen over the next couple of years with all these big stars? Because the Packers are so young, they're going to have more continuity than a lot of these other teams will. So I think they're going to be competitive for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Yep.
Let me ask you this, Alan. What's your ceiling for him?
I think that, you talk about success. I think he should play in multiple NFC title games. Like, saying you're going to win a Super Bowl, so much has to happen, but
Sure.
I think he can be there. But I would expect him, and I would expect that Packers team to be in a few NFC title games. Like, that's what kind of the ceiling for them. And then can they break through a few times? But the reason I say that ceiling, because it's almost like that bar of success. If I'm a fan, I'm like, I should be right there. And if you win or you don't win, like, anything can happen, like you said, in the playoffs. But that's where I expect them to be. They added Josh Jacobs. They signed Xavier McKinney from the Giants. Like, they lost a few pieces, but I think by and large, like, it's still a super talented roster.
I agree. I think Josh Jacobs is a significant upgrade from Aaron Jones. I really do. Yeah. And I think that all those young wide receivers with another year of Jordan Love and being able to find even more chemistry, I think it's going to be a scary team. And but once again, I still struggle to say, Jordan Love, you deserve $60 million a year. But then I look at the inverse and I'm like, son of a gun, you're better than Trevor Lawrence. And he got paid 55.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the downside. I mean, we all rave about the Packers and their ability to move from, Hall of Fame quarterback to Hall of Fame quarterback. But that is the downside, is if you're going to bring somebody on to be the guy that's going to learn under Aaron Rodgers, then you don't know if he's the guy until you have to pay him. And then you have to make a hard decision. Luckily for them, the tail end of last season, I think, basically made the decision for them. They don't have the opportunity to move on from him at this point, given the fact that they went to the playoffs, they won a game. But that is the downside where, Jordan Love might not be that good. They might have just had, a kind of a freak good half of the year, and then you're stuck with him now because you just paid him all this money and you end up like a Daniel Jones situation.
Well, and that's the other side of it. And that's why I'm curious to see if in this contract, that's why, I asked about the years is, do you see a 5-year? Do you see a 4-year? Maybe you see a 5-year with like a 5-year contract with like a 3rd year out. So that way, if you're not performing, the team can at least walk from you and try and protect themselves a little bit. And we kind of saw that a little bit with Daniel Jones too. Like he has an out after this year. So he's back once again, kind of on that prove it contract. And I could see a very real possibility where something like that has worked into Love's contract. So that way they could move on the event that it was a fluke.
From Jordan Love's perspective, though, not to drag this out any further, but he's got all of the leverage in this negotiation right now because they have to pay him. They're not going to move on from him right now. And there are so many other teams that would be interested in overpaying Jordan Love just to get a quarterback that they feel comfortable with. And so when you go into those negotiations and they're like, well, we're only going to give you 4 years or whatever, and it's only going to be so much guaranteed money. Well, he's going to be like, well, I might test the market then because I guarantee I can find more than a lot of that. So he's got all the leverage. I think it's going to be a big contract.
Yeah, I think for us as fans is exciting. The NFC North is going to be super exciting.
Dude,
Detroit, can they do it? Can Chicago come back? Can the Packers sustain? What the hell are the Vikings going to do? Like, there's so many good storylines. When's the last time we talked about
this division like this? Like it's flipped. This is good. This is exciting.
Probably not since Favre was quarterback for the Vikings. Did we talk about like everybody like this?
Yeah.
I mean, NFC North is the hardest division in football right now. That is the most difficult division.
Them or the AFC East?
Yeah,
I would say Jets, Dolphins, Bills. Like that's a hell of a run.
Yeah,
for anybody.
That's a good. Yeah.
So either or, they're up there for just a gauntlet because you got to play everybody twice. That sucks.
That does suck. Yeah, maybe the AFC East. I was thinking about it now.
I don't know. I still think the Bills have a big old question mark.
I don't think the Bills are. I said this last week. I don't think the Bills are going to be nearly as great as people think they are this year.
I think they will not be seen as great, but I think Josh Allen's going to put up MVP numbers.
I think Josh Allen's the only reason that the Bills are going to be relevant this year.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's my hot take. We'll talk about that later.
Let's talk about the Chargers. Let's go. There was an interesting little blurb that came out on Twitter over the weekend. Daniel Popper of The Atlantic. He has claimed that the 3 wide receivers that are going to be used in 11 personnel packages for the Chargers are currently Joshua Palmer, Ladd McConkey, and DJ Shark. There is somebody, I don't know if you heard those 3 names. Somebody's missing, gentlemen. A first-round pick from last year isn't even starting as a wide receiver 3 for them right now, and that person's Quentin Johnston. You hit the panic button on Quentin Johnston. If you're dynasty fantasy owners, you sell him for a 4th-round pick, move on, try and just close your eyes and cross your fingers that somebody will hit the accept button.
Well, if we're talking fantasy football, I'm not going to pay a 4th-round pick for Quentin Johnston at this point. So I think you just hang on to him because you're not going to get any return.
Exactly. I think you're right. If you haven't moved him already, you just got to sit. You got to sit on him. The whatever question upside he might have somewhere else is almost better than the nothing you'll get from in a trade.
Yeah, 100%.
But if he's not even starting as the wide receiver 3, it's going to be very difficult for him to ever have relevance.
Injuries. Chargers got lots of injuries. They got rid of all their injury guys.
Exactly. Then they got rid of everybody who gets injured. Namely Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and Keenan Allen are all off roster.
Yeah. If you're Quentin Johnston, you're like, Harbaugh never would have drafted me. So it's like when you get a new manager and the manager wants to fire you right away, but they can't yet. And you're like, God damn it. Like, I'm just sitting here. Like, I'm just going to collect whatever check. From like a finance standpoint, it's a rookie. That's why they do these rookie deals now, man. Because it used to be you had to pay them veteran money right away. And now that you have these rookie deals, like it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it sucks that 1st-round pick goes away, but like financially the Chargers, they'll be okay.
Come out on top.
They'll just move on from them. So it just blows because they could have had other options at that spot last year.
I'm not even sure from a fantasy perspective I'm interested in any of these wide receivers that are starting just because I think this offense is going to be boring. I think it's just going to be a boring Harbaugh Michigan offense where they throw the ball like 11 times a game. And like, I don't know. They're barely going to let Justin Herbert play is what I'm gathering.
Is that I have a really hard I understand what you're saying, and I I've gone back and forth on this quite a bit because, we know that Harbaugh historically is kind of that run first guy, but I think, playing into it, you also have Justin Herbert, he has got a cannon of an arm, and Justin Herbert's not a bad quarterback. So, like, what a waste of talent that would be of Justin Herbert if you're not going to utilize him properly. And that's where I think, like, I understand what you're saying, and I tend to agree with you as far as, like, from a fantasy perspective. Who do you pick? For me, it would be Ladd McConkey. If I had to choose anybody on this team that I wanted, it would probably be Ladd, or maybe Gus Edwards, because I do think they're going to run the ball a lot. And you could also maybe even argue grabbing J.K. Dobbins, and it's going to be a 1-2 punch for that running back room. I think we're going to see a lot of play action come out of this. I think that's what I'm interested in seeing. I think we're going to see some heavy sets, and I think that Justin Herbert, that's where you're going to see a lot of utilization of Justin Herbert's arm. I don't think we're going to see him throw as much as we have in the past, but I think his throws are going to be more impactful and meaningful because of the way the offense is set up.
Yep. I agree 100%. If unless Harbaugh decides to just totally pivot from what he's done traditionally as a head coach, you're going to see like the Will Dissleys, the Hayden Hursts at the tight end spot, get a lot of those red zone looks off that play action. Like that's absolutely what he loves to do, is get those big guys in the middle, just feasting and catching those balls. I think from a wide receiver room, Josh Palmer early on is probably going to get some targets just because of the comfortability, but I don't think they're going to be volume plays, just like Scotty's alluding to. Like, you're not going to see them drop back and have 40 pass attempts. It's going to have to be spot duty and like who breaks one or who happens to just have like a 5 reception catching the 1 touchdown type game.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to have to be for that room.
We also have to remember that this division is kind of stacked on defense. The Chargers are going to have to play it. The Chiefs defense was good last year. The Raiders defense is going to be good this year. Like, I don't think there are going to be a ton of points being scored in a lot of their games, even if things are going well for them. But the one thing that makes me feel a little bit better is we know Harbaugh is a good coach. So if they're running the ball a lot and it's not working, he is going to pivot. He's not going to be one of those guys that's like, this offense is going to form to my philosophy no matter what. He is going to be able to pivot and get the most out of his guys. So I think if things aren't working in the running game, I don't think they're going to be afraid to throw the ball. But just given the Harbaugh system, given the defenses they're going to have to play twice a year, it's like, well, I don't see a lot of points being scored.
Yeah,
no, I agree with that. And then you didn't even mention the Broncos. Right. And I don't know if we really need to mention the Broncos.
That's the best part of their team is their defense, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, their offense is a huge old question mark with a bunch of nobodies at this point.
Yeah, we'll know right away with the Chargers. They get the Raiders right away, they get the Panthers, and then they get the Steelers. So that's 3 games that are like winnable. But if they look,
those are all hard defense. Like you look at those 3 teams that you name, though. The Raiders have a difficult defense. The Steelers are a very good defense, and then the Broncos they got some playmakers. So like defensively, that's not an easy start. Offensively, you can make arguments, but either way, like that's not a cakewalk.
We'll see.
What's the over under on how many points the Chargers are going to average this year per game? 17.
I was going to say 18.5. So
I was going to say 22.5.
Oh, that's pretty good for NFL. That's like
that is pretty good. I have a lot of faith in Harbaugh. That's what I have faith in.
Yeah.
I think he's going to utilize the talent that he has to the best of his ability. And I don't think you can say that about every NFL head coach. Actually, you can say that a lot. You can't say that about a lot of NFL head coaches. Where's Arthur Smith? Where's Adam Gase? Let's talk about Terrell Owens. There was something that came out recently. He was on the Bubba Dub show, and Terrell Owens was talking about Tom Brady. I'm not familiar with what that show is either, if I'm being honest. But Terrell Owens, he was talking about Tom Brady on the show, and when Tom Brady went over to the Bucs in 2021 after the whole Antonio Brown thing, where you saw him take his jersey off at halftime and throw it up in the stands. Actually, I don't even know if it wasn't halftime.
It wasn't even halftime. The game was still going on.
Yeah, he just was like, I'm done. And he took all his clothes off and ran off the field half naked. And Terrell Owens, he reached out to Tom Brady and he said, hey, I want to come play for you guys. And Tom Brady completely ignored Terrell Owens, who I have to say, Terrell Owens is 48 years old. So
at the time he was 48 years old. Now he's older.
Sorry. At the time he was 48.
Have you seen Terrell Owens lately? Like just walking around, he was a specimen in the NFL. He is still he could still play physically. Like I think body wise, he could still play. There's no doubt in my mind.
Dude, there is
50 years old,
absolutely
though?
no way a 50-year-old man is
Why does
going
he
out
don't-
there.
Oh, he could. I bet you he could because they don't have. He is not going to get hit like he normally did either. Like you look at Lockett for the Seahawks that basically just dives to the ground every time. Like Terrell Owens could do that.
Lockett does do that every time.
He could do that. I think he could play. I don't think he'd be like all pro level or anything like that, but I think he could absolutely play if he.
You think he'd replace prime Antonio Brown pretty well in that offense?
Not about that. I think the Chargers could use him. Maybe they should call him.
And call Antonio Brown or Terrell Owens?
No, call Terrell. Maybe call them both. I don't know.
Dude, Terrell Owens is still big.
He's huge.
I'm
He's a
browsing
big
on
boy.
his Instagram right now. Yeah, I just
He's
have a hard
jacked.
time. He's jacked. I'm gonna say that.
I don't know what his
Owens-
knees are going to do, but
exactly,
he's jacked.
and that's the problem. Terrell
You hear him
Owens
clicking.
is almost a 50-year-old man wanting to go back out and play NFL football. It's just not going to happen. Like, and why would you want that? Like, what if you were Terrell Owens? Why at 48
broke.
years old?
He's broke. Why does anybody want to go back to work? They're
Has
broke.
anyone ever been inducted? Because he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018. Has anyone ever been inducted into the Hall of Fame and then played
They
more
can't, right?
football after?
Oh, that's true. I don't think they can they? If
I
you're
don't know.
already inducted, I think you're done.
Is
Well,
that
that's
how
what
it
I mean.
works?
They wait like 10 years to induct you. So
Yeah. If
seems
you're in the Hall of Fame in the NFL, can you play?
Can you?
Still
Yeah.
play?
What is?
you asking
I'm gonna
Chat
say-
GPT?
I was just
Yeah.
googling.
What's the answer? What's the answer?
Once
here?
you're a
Yes,
Hall
no?
of Fame, are you allowed to go back and play? Yes, technically.
I don't like that.
But that
technically.
10-year cushion is probably like they're accounting for the fact that like nobody can actually go back after those 10 years. That's
Yeah.
probably what it is.
If anyone could,
Mhm.
it'd be T.O. Tell you what.
If you
Deion
did, they
Sanders
should
came
give him a-
close. He retired from Washington in 2001, stayed retired for 3 seasons, and then 04 he went and joined the Ravens for 2 seasons.
When was he
Yeah, but
inducted?
he
Does it say?
he wasn't inducted until after that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
If let's say this happened, they should give you like a gold jersey of whatever the team is. That'd be
that'd be
sick.
sick.
Yes,
I would definitely like. that'd be
Sorry.
sick.
It is possible for a Hall of Fame player to come out of retirement and play again in their professional sport. There have been several examples of this over the years across different sports. Some key factors that can allow a Hall of Fame player to return to play after retirement include, just basically physically able to do
Just
it.
stuff. Yeah,
Uh,
basically, can their
can
body
they do
do it?
Are
Michael
they 50 years
Jordan-
old?
Coming out of retirement twice to play for the Bulls. Brett Favre unretiring multiple
Yeah, but they
times to
weren't
play
in.
for the Packers.
They weren't.
But they weren't in the Hall of
inducted,
Fame.
though.
I understand.
They
that.
weren't inducted yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't 10 years later. I mean,
He should do it.
T.O.
He
finished
should do
his
it.
career in like 2011 when he didn't make the practice squad for the Ravens. And then he was inducted in 2018. And then 2021, he's like, yeah, I'll come join your team. It's like, bro, 10 years ago, you couldn't even make the team, like a starting roster.
See,
What the
and
fuck
that's
are you
my
talking
argument.
about?
You can look like a physical just Beaut. You can be ripped and shredded and huge, and that doesn't mean that you're going to be a good NFL player. And I think that at 48 years old, Terrell Owens probably wasn't going to be a good NFL player. And there's more to the story, by the way. So Terrell Owens had then said on this Bubba Dub show that Tom Brady, he said, and I quote, "This dude just ignored me. It just shows that you lack the respect there. But then when they get in front of you, they want to act like they respect you."
T.O. was
I'm-
actually pissed.
Yeah, he's like, "Tom Brady didn't fucking text me back, man." And I'm like, dude, I have a hard time just texting back my fiance. And I love her. So for Tom Brady, who probably has so many people reaching out to him on a very regular basis for something or another, if Terrell Owens popped up in my freaking inbox or my little text chat, I'd be like, "Oh, what's up,
Saying some
T.O.?" And he's like,
nonsense.
"Hey man, can I come play with you?" And I'm like, "Dude, get the fuck out of here." Like I wouldn't answer that either.
Yeah, I mean, I side with Tom Brady, but also if I had Tom Brady's phone number when he was winning Super Bowls with the Bucks, I probably would have texted him too and be like, "Hey,
Sure.
let me join. I'll jump in there." So I get T.O.
So would you be mad? Though? Would you be mad if Tom Brady didn't text you back because he's like,
I would
"Scotty
be
Holtmeyer
disappointed.
texted me and wants to come play football"? Not
I'd be
answering that.
disappointed.
Here's Here's the real question. How many texts did Tom Brady get during that time for people? Maybe it was just lost in a shuffle of a lot of texts that people were like, can I come play with you for a little bit? Like, he probably just was like, I'm just not answering any of these
He's got
anymore.
a separate folder in his phone for just requests.
What are you
come
guys
play.
doing now that Antonio Brown ran off the field?
It's like,
Is there like an
it's like a
opening?
bunch
Can
of
I try out?
it's like a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids and then T.O. It's like, hey, let me come play a couple games with you.
Antonio Brown was the Make-A-Wish kid.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
I grow up. Like you're a 50-year-old. You're over 50 years old. Like, why are you holding a grudge? Just stop. You had your time in the NFL. I'm on Tom Brady's side, which is weird because I usually am not.
We're not winning Super Bowls here on this podcast, but T.O., you got an open invitation. You can join us whenever you want, friend. We'll always take a legend like you.
I'm gonna be honest. If Terrell Owens shows up on this show, I'm gonna tell him straight to his face, you need to grow up.
Yeah, maybe over webcam. I don't know if I'd tell him that to his face.
If he wants to come on down, I'll tell him. I'll sit next to him on this couch behind me, and I'll look at him and I'll say, Terrell Owens, I think you need to grow up.
You think he'd try some Erica's Healthy Pets treats?
Probably.
I've sensed a future segment. We just get big names on to eat dog food.
That's right.
And Alan, it was so good to see you. Well wishes on your move. You will be gone next week, but we in the Brainiac community wish you all the best. So
yes, sir. I'll see you guys on the other side.
All right, let's get the heck out of here. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out LeatherBrainz.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.